Why do you come to us?
I just want to keep my family safe.
And we are back with a new movie review. This one just came out to theaters like last week. I just got around to getting online now. And yeah, I went and saw Avatar 2: The Way of Water. I saw it in 3D. I did not see it in IMAX 3D because I'm trying to save money. But I saw it in 3D because the original one I saw in 3D, it's like, okay, Avatar is one of those film series I will always see in 3D because it is quite gorgeous in 3D. And yeah, if you read the thumbnail to this video, yes, that was meant to be a joke because of the stupid ass comments that James Cameron made a couple of weeks ago. I mean, just like his comments on testosterone were just absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like, I laughed hardly for like 5 minutes straight when I read that he said that. It's just like, yeah, that was just freaking hilarious. Like, he actually there's no way anyone actually believes that. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into it. But anyway, so I saw this movie, made the thumbnail joke, and yeah, I will say this about Avatar 2. It has its problems, but I enjoyed it better than the first movie. Which, in a way, is saying a lot, but in another way, isn't saying very much.
Protect the people.
Let's get it done.
Okay, so if you haven't seen my review or retrospective of the first movie, I'll have it in the description down below. It basically was my thoughts on the movie I did a few weeks ago, and as a kind of recap, I liked half of it. I thought half the movie was incredible, amazing, and I thought the other half was poorly constructed and kind of just lackluster and bad. And you can find out more about that watching the review. But going into this one, I was kind of interested in seeing how this was going to play out because this is the third sequel James Cameron is doing. The first 2 sequels he ever did was Aliens and Terminator 2, which are like 2 of the greatest sci-fi action movies of all time. Like, these are movies that have been put in the Smithsonian, okay? Like, these movies are deemed culturally important. So, I was kind of interested to see how James Cameron was going to do his third sequel. But with this one, like, there are aspects of this film that are truly amazing. Absolutely just, you stuck the landing, James. And then there are other aspects, it's just like, yeah, you kind of tripped and skinned your knee right there. Okay, now I'm not saying this is an unredeemable movie. This is a movie worth watching. The issue is it worth going to the theater and seeing? And honestly, I would say yes, simply because this is one of the most beautiful films ever made. Like, just hands down. No question about it. This thing is fucking gorgeous. Absolutely. And like, I'm watching this movie and I'm seeing the CGI and I'm just like, oh, so that's what CGI looks like when you actually give your visual effects artist the time to make it. Disney. Like, the MCU has really been suffering on many fronts recently, but one of them has been CGI. And like, damn, there's some really bad looking CGI, especially in their Disney Plus shows. And like the visual effects artists, they're just like, yeah, we were given like a week to do that. We were given like no time. And with this movie, Avatar, it's like, gee, it's been 13 years since the last one. James Cameron has been working on this one and part of the third one for the past 5 years. Why has it been taking you so... Okay, now we know why it took him so long. Because it's like, hey, guys, how much time do you need to make this look realistic? All of it? Yes, all of it. 5 years. You got it. You know? I mean, and it really does show. Like, the CGI is like almost second to none in a lot of the scenes. There's a couple of scenes. It's like, okay, that kind of looks like the quality of CGI you saw in Avatar 2009. Alright? But, I mean, even then, that was pretty good looking. It's aged pretty well. And, like, now, my gosh, some of the CGI with, like, the way skin is wet, it's just, like, my jaw dropped for a couple of scenes in this movie. No joke. That is how gorgeous this movie is. Now, something they implemented with the one I went to go see was they implemented the high frame rate on this film. I don't know if it was like 45 or 60 frames per second. I'm going to say 60 because that's what it kind of felt like to me. I deal with a lot of frame rates with video games, doing my videos and whatnot. And so it kind of felt to me like I was seeing it happen in 60 frames per second. It might actually be 45. And like, I like the idea of having a movie at 60 frames per second, especially one that's so CGI heavy. But the problem with this is that this entire movie, at least the version at the theater I saw, was not completely in 60 frames per second. It would jump back and forth between 24 frames and 60 frames. And not like the way IMAX changes with like grand screen. If you know about IMAX, basically it's letterbox, and then when an IMAX scene comes on, the letterbox like disappears and the screen is like just full out to its max size. It's not like that. I mean, you kind of notice that with IMAX, but no, with this, it's like you'll see one shot in 24 frames, and then there will be a quick shot over to someone reaching for something that's in 60 frames, and then it goes back to another shot that's at 24 frames. And that quick little shot that's at 60 frames is like 2 seconds long. Like, it was so jarring how back and forth it went between the 24 frames per second and 60 frames per second. And it tore me out of the experience constantly to a fault. Like, just holy shit, either do it completely in 60 frames or keep it at 24 frames. None of this mix and match shit. Literally, one action sequence, when like someone was running, it went from 24 frames to 60 frames. It felt like I was watching Benny Hill. Alright, the only thing missing was the Benny Hill music. I mean, it was so jarring, and if they just kept the whole thing at one of the frame rates, it would have been great. And I would have preferred to see this whole thing at 60 frames per second, because the CGI, it like really complemented the CGI. So some of the CGI, especially with like water like washing over a character's hands while it's holding onto a reins of like a creature while you sit in the water, looked so realistic running at 60 frames per second. So I get why they wanted to have that with such a CGI focused movie. Like literally 99.85% of this movie is 100% CGI. So, like, you could make the argument that this is an animated movie, because, like, there's barely any live action in it. But, I mean, for a movie that CGI heavy, I get the faster frame rate. It's just way too much was used, or like, it jumped back and forth way too much. And then, so, adding in the incredible CGI with the 60 frames per second and the 3D led to some truly breathtaking photorealistic scenes. I mean, oh my gosh. Like, literally, there's this one scene towards the end. 2 characters are in the water in like this air pocket, and the water's just like very gently there. It's not crashing, and it's just very gentle. It looked so real. It looked so real. Running at the faster frame rate with the 3D and the incredible work done on the CGI. And so, like, this is one of the most beautiful movies you are ever going to see. Period. And, like, with this story, it didn't so much feel like a ripoff of another story. If it is, I'm forgetting it. There's a little bit of Moby Dick in there. A little bit. But, like, honestly, this did feel a little bit more independently original than the first one. This does feel like James Cameron had a bunch of ideas he's been sitting on, and it's just like, case in point, James Cameron is really big into scuba diving, deep sea diving, taking subs down. I mean, like, he is all about that. Probably that happened with The Abyss, and then Titanic, like, solidified it. And so it feels like he has a bunch of ideas that he's just kind of like throwing together. Like, hey, you know what'd be awesome? A practically made like submarine that can move like a crab. But what movie would I put that in? And then when he was doing Avatar: Way of Water, it's just like, I had an idea for a crab submarine. I'll put that in this. Like, a lot of the sequences and set pieces and stuff in this kind of felt like just he had a bunch of ideas throughout his entire history, and he just kind of like threw them in together. And like, you know, it feels like some of the scenes were scenes he wanted to do in Titanic, and he just didn't have the time to do. So now, as for the action sequences, they're really fun. And I'm not just saying like the fight scenes as well. Like, there are some action sequences that aren't exactly fights, but they're just kind of like these more thrilling sequences, and they are really fun. Like, there's this one sequence of like this shark-like creature trying to kill one of the main characters, and like, it looked great. It was awesome, and it had me on the edge of my seat. And like, just, you know, the set pieces in this movie, like the action thrilling set pieces, really work great. And so because of the visual quality and the great set pieces, thrilling action set pieces, the 3.5 hour runtime actually went by really quick for me. I did not feel like this movie was too long. I know a lot of people are saying the movie was too long, but honestly, it might be another 13 years before we get another one. So I don't mind if it's a couple of hours long. Now, this movie isn't perfect. There are some criticisms I have of this movie. And I would say probably my biggest criticism is the character Spider. Spider just flat out sucks. It's a terrible character. And like, the potential for this character was kind of cool. I like the idea of having a kid that not only grew up with the Na'vi and learned their ways, but a kid that also grew up with scientists. So like, you would have like this like super ripped, like super genius. I mean, that could have been like its own self character right there that could have had their own spin-off movie. Because I mean, this kid didn't feel like he was smart. He felt like an idiot. It's like, if you're growing up with a bunch of scientists, you would be taught, you know, mathematics, science, you know, biology, you know, chemical engineering. Like, you'd be taught all these really nifty tricks from these scientists, and you would also learn how to hunt, how to track, how to, you know, use creatures from the Na'vi. And so, like, but they didn't do that. They had basically like a surfer bro, and he has dreadlocks for some reason, and he isn't a particularly amazing actor. And also, it looks like he just went to the gym for 2 weeks before doing this role. Like, if you were constantly running and hunting and climbing your entire life till you were like 17, guess what? You're going to look like Hugh Jackman at the height of Wolverine. You're going to look like Chris Hemsworth. I mean, you're going to look freaking ripped. And this kid, he looked like he only did some Pilates. And so, I mean, but that's not the reason why I didn't like him. The reason why I didn't like the character is because he's just the worst. Like, the logic with his scenes make no sense. Like, there were like 5 scenes. It's like, they would have shot him. They would have shot him right there, and they didn't. It was like, this character really strived on plot armor. Hands down. I mean, I didn't like his character arc, and they tried doing like a surprise with him, and then gave up on the surprise that didn't quite work. And like, just honestly, he's the reason why we're getting a third one. Because of a stupid move he does at the end. I get it. I get why he did it, but it's just, it's like, really? And you don't even tell anyone about it? Like, Spider's the worst. He's the absolute worst. Now, they bring back Sigourney Weaver and Stephen Lang, and like, the way they bring back Sigourney Weaver kind of works for me. I will admit. They still kind of leave it ambiguous as to how, but they do kind of give you enough breadcrumbs to like hint towards it. They're kind of like also pulling like a Paul Atreides from Dune with her character in this. And so it's like, is she, isn't she? It's kind of up in the air until the end of the movie. But I mean, you know, I kind of like that with her, and I thought Sigourney Weaver did a good job. There was a few times you could kind of tell her voice was a little bit too old for the character she was playing, because she's supposed to be playing like a 15-year-old, and Sigourney Weaver isn't 15. You know, she's not even 30. Like, I've heard some 30 or 40-year-olds like effectively do the voice of like a kid character, and like, yeah, Sigourney Weaver isn't even 40. She's considerably older. I mean, for the most part it works. It's just there were a few times it's like, yeah, that's not the voice of a kid. But no, I did like Sigourney Weaver's character. I can't remember half the characters' names. Like, I remember Stephen Lang's character, Jake's character, and Zoe Saldana's character's name, and that is it. Oh, and Spider. That's it. Everyone else's name was like so confusing. Like, I just completely forgot. I remember the character, but I cannot remember the names of a lot of these characters. So, Sigourney Weaver's new character, it wasn't the Doctor again. It was a new character that she got, so that kind of worked for me. But then Stephen Lang's character coming back, it's like, it's a stretch, okay? Like, it's a real stretch that you went that route to bring him back. I think I would have bought an evil twin more than that route. But, like, James, you once said in an interview Stephen Lang is going to be the main villain for the entire series until the very end. Like, I don't see how this character is going to be the main villain for the entire series. Like, this movie, he kind of got a little bit of development, so that was greatly appreciated. But still, not the amount that I was hoping for or that we deserved. And, like, they did, not only the way he comes back is a stretch, but they also have this other element to Stephen Lang's character that, without spoiling anything, basically imagine Star Wars, the very first one, where Luke Skywalker blows up the Death Star, you know, and New Hope, and Darth Vader gets flown away into space. Imagine if Empire Strikes Back, they just bring up this new character like, oh yeah, did you know that Darth Vader had a wife on the Death Star? It's like, they never mentioned that in the first movie. Well, he did, and he's pissed. But why wouldn't they have mentioned that in the first movie? It's like, just shut up and follow along. You know, like, just, that's how jarring this one element they bring in as Stephen Lang is. It's just like, he did not strike me as the type of guy who is even a deadbeat dad. Like, he struck me as the type of guy who never had a family. It was just military life all the way. And so, like, just, yeah, you're entering in this aspect to him. It just makes no sense. And then there's a huge, massive plot hole in this movie that, like, I was thinking, like, before going to see this movie, it's like, okay, so how are they going to handle this plot hole? And they never did. And it's like the Tree of Souls. Like, the last movie, the way it ends is there's this huge battle, and the humans are coming to destroy the Tree of Souls, because if they do that, the Na'vi will basically be, like, destroyed spiritually. Like, they will just give up and die. That was, like, how they were insinuating that. And in this movie, when the humans come back, it's like, okay, either their entire military are idiots, or they just figure, yeah, like they're just idiots, because the surviving people going back would have told them about the battle and the battle plan, and the humans coming back would have just orbital striked that area until the Tree of Souls was gone. It's like, okay, do we want to go in and fight the Na'vi when they have big brass balls, or do we want to destroy their idol and then their spirits will be crushed? Honestly, if I was in command of the human military, it's like, okay, where was the exact area you think the Tree of Souls was? Like this 25-mile region? Okay, just start hitting orbital strikes on that region until we see something happen. Yeah, we got enough arms for it. I mean, like, seriously, like, the Tree of Souls is a huge plot hole in this case. Now, another aspect that I thought was going to destroy the movie, like, just make me go, yeah, this is a piece of shit, was the whaling subplot. Like, just, why? Like, I didn't get that. Like, last I heard, like, everyone was in agreement that whaling's wrong, we're not going to do it anymore, and that, like, the only people that were still doing it was Japan, and that's because they eat whales. And even them, I don't think they whale anymore. I'm not sure. I could be wrong about that. But, like, I don't think anyone really whales anymore, except for, like, maybe poachers. And even then, it's like, who do they sell to? Like, I guess they could sell the ivory. I guess that's something they could poach. But, like, whaling is not that common anymore. So, why you'd have a whaling subplot to show how evil us humans are, I don't really get that. Now, credit what's credit's due. I was really afraid that this whaling subplot was going to be the new unobtainium. I thought it was going to be the new bullshit MacGuffin of that's why the humans are back, because they want to kill all of our whales. And no, actually the reason why humans are back is because, hey, Earth's pretty much dead, so we're going to start terraforming Pandora. And we were saying the military first to clear away any hostiles, and we're basically going to build a colony on Pandora. That's why the humans are back. It's like, okay, that makes a little bit more fucking sense. And also, the whaling subplot, it wasn't the entire reason why we're here. It was like, hey, so we're building all these industries, and we're going to have an agricultural industry, we're going to have, you know, the military complex, and we're also going to have this whaling industry to, you know, do this aspect. And so it wasn't the entire sole focus. So it's like, okay, that helps it a little bit, but, like, they do this whole whale sequence of them killing one of these Pandorian whales, and thankfully, they explain why they're whaling. And it's like, before, when I was in the theater watching it, it's just like, why are they whaling? This makes absolutely no sense. Like, seriously, this is stupid. Like, why are they whaling? And then they have this scene explaining it, and I'm just like, okay, it's really immoral, but that makes a lot of fucking sense. You know? Like, okay, I understand why they are whaling now. So, at least, thank you, James, for giving us something as to why the humans are doing that. Instead of just like, oh, magic rock. What does it do? Just watch the movie. What does this magic rock do? That is the reason why humans are being the biggest fucking dicks of all time. Just watch the movie. And so, thankfully, this time around, the reason why we're being dicks is a very logical reason. It's like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I was watching Chris Gore's review of this movie, and he pointed out something kind of interesting. He pointed out that, like, this is one of the first movies in a long time coming out of Hollywood that actually shows, like, a healthy family dynamic between all the members of the Jake Sully family. And, like, I was starting to think about it. It's like, yeah, you know what? It's been so long since we've seen a movie that portrays a healthy, working family. Long time. It used to be the status quo decades ago. But now, recent memory, it's like either the dad's an asshole dick that needs to die, or the mom's a drug user, or both the parents are dead, or like the kids hate the parents with a fiery passion and won't talk to them, and like the family's fractured and dysfunctional, and like that's the case so much now that it's a breath of fresh air when you actually see a family unit, the dad and mother, they raise the kids, they love their kids, they love each other, one of them isn't cheating on the other one, they listen to each other, and they try to teach their kids right, and the kids also have a respect for their parents. It's like, wow, we like never see that anymore. And so, I mean, like, that was kind of surprising. And, you know, like, sure, a lot of people will see that as a downside because it's like, you know, down with the patriarchy and whatnot. But like, no, like, they run it as like a patriarchy matriarchy type of situation where, you know, Jake is the leader, but Neytiri is the spiritual leader, and so she does contribute a lot more than just being the, you know, obeying wife. And also Neytiri, holy fucking shit, she gets a scene towards the end where she just goes 100% beast mode and just like fucking goes on like a John Wick killing spree, and it is awesome. And she also gets really, really fucking dark at the end. like Peter Jackson natives in the beginning of King Kong type of dark. Like, it's just like, do not fuck with that bitch, you know. So no, Neytiri was pretty good in this movie, and I would say Jake Sully does have the least amount of development because the focus is more on his kids this time around. And like, they have 4 kids, technically 5 with Spider because Spider's adopted, but like 2 of them don't really get a lot of development. That's the older brother and the younger sister. Like, the younger sister, like, there were times when I was watching a movie, like, I saw, it's like, I forgot she was here. She has a couple of funny lines, but, like, honestly, they don't really develop her. And the older brother, they don't really develop either. And so, I mean, like, he does get a little bit, but, like, the characters they develop a lot is Sigourney Weaver's character and then the youngest brother. And, like, they have really good development. I liked following her story, and I liked following his story, even though it does follow a lot of, like, moving to a new place cliche. Like, we're in a new town, you know, he likes the girl, the chief's daughter's, he likes the chief's daughter, and he's having problems with bullies, and, you know, trying to find respect. He's being teased because he has an extra finger or whatnot, and, like, while those story elements have been done to death, like, I did like his story arc because, like, he constantly is getting, like, yelled at by his dad for screwing up, but there is this one really great scene at the end that he has with his dad, and it like, really develops his character so that, like, down the road, maybe not the next movie, but maybe the 4th or 5th movie, like, this son character could become, like, the new lead of the film series, along with his sister, played by Sigourney Weaver. And so, I did like 2 out of 4 kids. You know? The other 2, it was just because I didn't get enough development on them. One thing I found freaking hilarious, though, was Kate Winslet. Now, Kate Winslet plays the chief's wife of the water tribe they go and visit. And one of the things they advertised before this movie was that Kate Winslet did one scene underwater where she held her breath for 8 minutes. And I was just like, damn, like, she holds the record for the actor who held their breath the longest. The world record for longest breath is, like, I think 10 something, and the guy had brain damage after that. But, like, no, she successfully held her breath for 8 minutes. Now, the funny thing is, watching this movie, I saw maybe one scene where she was in it for maybe 2 minutes, and I don't ever remember seeing her underwater. So maybe that'll be in the extended cut when this comes to DVD. But like, I'm just imagining James Cameron. It's like, okay, Kate, we got it. And she's like, I can hold my breath longer. It's like, no, we got the shot. You can come up. It's like, I'm gonna hold my breath longer. It's like, Kate, you don't have to. It's like, I'm doing it. It's like, I don't know. She wants to hold her breath longer, I guess. And so I'm just kind of picturing that because it's like 8 minutes, and I never saw one scene that like could even be like, okay, that might have been the 8 minute sequence where she held her breath. So ultimately, in the end, I enjoyed this a lot better than the first one. There were some aspects of the first one I did like better, but overall, the visuals alone is worth the price of admission. Are there some bad characters? Yes. Is there better character development overall? Yes, because we get better character development with more characters this time around. And I did enjoy this movie. It had some problems for me, but like, I did enjoy it better than the first one. Understanding that you do want to kind of watch the first one, because if you haven't seen the first one and you just go into this, you won't be able to enjoy this better than the first one, if that makes sense. And so, honestly, I would say this is worth seeing in the theater, even though this probably is going to be considered a financial bomb, since James Cameron said this needs to make $2 billion at the box office. And when was the last time a movie made $2 billion? I think it's been a while. Even Top Gun Maverick, I don't think reached $2 billion yet. Maybe it did. So, you know, like, I don't know if this is going to be the smash runaway success that James Cameron needs to be. So, anyway, that's been my review of Avatar: The Way of Water. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts? What are your negatives or pros with this movie? Say off in the comments down below. My name's Christopher Croft, 11 Hour Reviews, and that will be all.